Well, the budget dropped yesterday, and oh boy, it does seem to have potentially dropped like an absolute stone. Because my own MP, Dan Jarvis, yesterday, probably I think had the best take, and I wish it had gone round a lot more than it has done. But he said, sitting in that chamber, it felt like he had gone back in time, that he was almost sat there like it was 2010. And I think this needs to get back around, that Jeremy Hunt has budgeted like it was 2010. I think that needs to sort of be the message that has gone around. And one of the things I will have always constantly said, that this budget is not going to fly well in the red wall seats. And we'll get that into that in a bit to it, because oh boy, is it not going to go well. But first of all, what has happened? So there was a lot of stuff announced in the budget, and to be honest, going over every single bit of it is would be here quite a while. I'm not gonna lie, we'd be here quite a while if we went through and explained everything that was in the budget. But the key takeaway is the TDLR. If you want to know a quick summary of the budget, is that we're going to have higher taxes, but unfortunately, we're going to get less in return. That is essentially the budget. And it gets even worse, the fact that you can see the very ideology of the typical ideology at play here put on display by Jeremy Hunt. Hunt went out and said that it would not be fair to put all the burden of these tax rises on the rich. Well, hold on, Jeremy. How is it fair to put all the tax rises on the middle class and the working class? How is it fair that we have to pay for what is essentially your party's mistakes? Let's not undercut this. The reason why we are in this mess, the reason why we, and I say we, are going into a recession is because of what Liz Truss's government did. And the shocking thing you need to understand is that many Tories on the backbenchers liked what Liz Truss was doing. They just didn't agree that it should be done at this speed, that Liz Truss went too quickly, too fast, and that she was spitting out all these things, and we're like, whoa, Liz, you need to slow down a bit, let some of this stuff sink in first. The shocking thing is that libertarianism has become a big credo in our conservative party here. Now, a lot of people in the US, when I hear that, will be like, oh, please, it's been part of our sort of Republican Party for years. But this sort of libertarianism is a very, very new thing to conservatism. And even though a lot of the conservatives like what the libertarian brand of what people like, Liz Truss and, sort of Kersey Kutang were sort of selling, they're not 100% on board. They like what they're hearing, but they're not 100% sure that the British public is going to be sold on it. So they knew that this libertarianism, this brand new thing that they were trying to sell to the British public, has to be done very slowly. And that is why one thing that certainly should be picked up on in Hunt's speech, where he sort of delivered it to when Parliament, he said that people want Swedish style public services, but with Singaporean efficiency. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the big con that is now being being sold to you, the British public, because I've picked up on it. I don't know if anyone else certainly has. That instead of saying, "Oh, we need to make cuts to the NHS, or we need to make cuts to social services, or councils need to have cuts made to them," instead, throughout the budget, instead of saying the word cuts, Jeremy Hunt said that these departments, these services, needed to have efficiency savings, that they needed to become more efficient. So essentially, instead of having cuts, they're having efficiency savings. You're going to get less services, you're going to get less money, social service department, you're going to get less money, councils, but don't worry, if you make efficiency savings, you should be fine. And lo and behold, austerity gets a rebrand. It's still austerity, but it's austerity not like you know it. It's just efficiencies, guys. They're making efficiencies. It's not cuts, it's efficiencies. And bear in mind, when Boris Johnson was back in charge, he was selling cuts the exactly same way. That these aren't cuts, these are efficiency measures. And lo and behold, making cuts to public services has now been rebranded as efficiency savings. And getting back to what I was talking about how Jeremy Hunt said that it would not be fair for rich people to take all the burden. And bear in mind, we are not talking when we're talking about this, we're talking about a very small group of rich people here. A very small group, because you may remember, a couple of videos back, I talked about doing a wealth tax, because you've got to understand the obscene amount of wealth these people hold, and that even taxing them, and this is the real kicker, even taxing them for a wealth tax of just 0.1%, that is how much we are talking about taxing them here. That is how much we are talking about taxing them. Just that tax alone, on essentially what we're talking about, less than 1% of the British public, because this is the amount of wealth. This is what we've got to try and certainly get across to people, the amount of obscene wealth that these people hold, is that this would pay for a year's running cost of the NHS and the entire social care budget. Just a 0.01% tax on 1% of the UK's population would pay for a year's running cost of the NHS and social care. And yet, Jeremy Hunt has the balls to say that rich people shouldn't pay their fair share. And of course, one thing that we've seen coming out is, oh, I'm not going to get rid of the nom-dom status. Well, I'll tell you what, Labour needs to make this a thing. And it does look like they are. And I'm really, really happy that Rachel Reeves, when she got up to do her response, took it to Hunt. Because if you haven't seen Rachel Reeves' response to the budget, it's well worth a watch. Because once again, as I said at the beginning, the TDLR of this budget is that we're going to tax you more, but we're going to give you less services in response. Why? Because Hunt laid it out very clear. I am going to pretend to give you world-class, Swedish-style services, but on the other hand, we're going to make Singaporean-style efficiency. It does not make sense. And we've been through this before. Even the British public, when polled, are very happy. Very happy. Even Tory voters agree with this, which is why we know we could do it. That if we were to go, if you want good public services, you have to pay for them. The British public are polled on this time and time again and understand that. That is why I think this has been done to, and that message has been sort of put out to try and see if they can cut Labour off on this, because they know that Labour is going to move on this, because it certainly does seem that they are moving in that direction. Again, that wealth tax, 0.01% would pay for a year's running cost of the NHS and social services. This yeah, we are going into some bad times. This is going to be some very, very bad times. And if you thought the first lot of austerity was bad, well, unfortunately, austerity 2.0, the new and improved efficiency savings, they're not cuts. Austerity 2.0, it's not cuts, it's efficiencies. Welcome to the new rebrand. And that is something that we also have to push back against, this rebrand that Hunt and the Conservatives are desperately trying to do. This budget will not go down well in the Red Wall, and we will find out very quickly how well this goes down. By the way, if you are in the UK and you do have a Conservative MP, member for Parliament, either in sort of the Red Wall or elsewhere in the country, write to them. Write to them and say, you are not happy that you feel you are paying your fair share of tax, but the rich people, and again, quote that number to them, that a wealth tax of 0.01% would essentially pay for a year's cost of the NHS, and that Jeremy Hunt thinks it's wrong, that they think it's wrong. Tell them that you are displeased, that you are being paid, that you are, that they are taking your money and not someone else's who can really, to be honest, afford it. Because even then, even if you do that wealth tax, the obscene amount of money they would have would still be pretty obscene. Yeah. But unfortunately, this is classic conservatism to the max. And a lot of people are going to get poorer this winter. The poorer are going to get poorer. And hopefully, Labour recognises that they have the power to really kick in some radical policies that even sort of the, those centrist voters in the UK would predominantly vote for. So yeah, this budget, we'll see how the reaction comes over the weekend. But even now, today, I don't think the reaction is going to go over well. But it depends on those constituents. So my phrase to you is, people, if you have a Conservative member of Parliament in the UK, write to them, email them. It's not hard to do. Express your displeasure at the fact that there is all this money in the UK that could very easily pay to plug up this black hole, which your party created. Make that very clear that it was their party who created this problem and that they have chosen to plug it instead with your money, when there is money that they could be going after and using to help, get the UK out of this mess that they've created, and they're not going for it. So, as always, like I say, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, we'll see you all next time.